Hello everyone. Today we're going to paint this beautiful cherry grove in Toyama, Japan. So before I start painting, I wanted to talk a little bit about the colors that I see in this photo. My brain is telling me that these are white cherry blossoms, maybe even some pink. But when you look at the photo, you just take a section, I see some very pale purple, maybe some violet, maybe a very light value of Payne's gray. And over here, I see a little bit of orange, maybe a little yellow. And up here, you see some yellow and some white. And then when you look at the trees, there's some light value of brown, maybe like raw umber. And then along the grasses, we have some yellow green, and then in the shade, some more bluey green. And then way back in the distance, you see a shape. This is the focal point right here. The people and this brightest spot of the picture. And keeping this area light and this very detailed will help people look at that focal point and go, wow. So you'll be able to find the outline for this photo, for this painting on my Patreon. It'll be linked in the description, and I will also put it in the video. I'm just going to use my paints from my 48 pan palette. I am probably going to use some Moonglow, some raw umber, probably some green gold, and some nickel azo yellow. And then I'm also going to use one of my new extended point paintbrushes, which I call my magic wand. I used it last week in a video, the spontaneous landscape video, for the first time. And wow, am I amazed by this. So I'm going to use this to do a whole bunch of little branches. Isn't that just the coolest thing? So I'm really excited. Okay, I have the camera zoomed in mostly to the painting. I'm going to say the color that I'm using as I grab it from my palette. There is a little bit of the palette showing, but I think it's more important that you see what I'm doing here. I know that on the photo that the colors are very muted and pale, but for the painting, I'm going to make the sky a little more vibrant. I'm going to start with some cobalt blue. And first I'm going to get the whole sky, I'm going to get the whole thing wet. So I have my 3/4 inch flat Princeton Neptune, and I'm going to just wet the whole top part. Actually, I think I'll go all the way to the people, so I can kind of define where that light part is going to stay. So up here, I'm going to put some cobalt blue. And then in a couple of little spots, I'm going to add that cobalt blue. It's a very bright day. And I don't think anywhere else. I think that's it from the cobalt blue. And then I'm going to get some raw umber. It's very hard. And I'm going to paint in the trees. Very loosely. Kind of want this to be bright, so there. You can, I think I already mentioned it, but I think I'll mention it again, that you can get this outline on my free Patreon. The link will be in the description. Okay, this is like one block of brown trees. Back here, I eliminated what looks like a fence back there. I'm just going to make it trees. I am using my Be Creative sketchbook. It has 100% cotton cold pressed paper in it. It doesn't have much texture. The paper is not textured like Arches is. But I really like how easy it is to paint on. Not sure what's happening here. Easy in that there isn't a lot of texture to fight. Sometimes I fight it. And with this notebook or sketchbook, the paint just goes on. You don't have to, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Now I'm going to wet this again. And I'm not going to wet this part here that's supposed to stay light. So like from her head and up, a little higher. So from here up down to there, there's like a triangle that is staying very light. I'm going to put these trees in behind him. Okay, so I was wetting. I want to get this in here is in the shade. So I'm putting a little bit of Moonglow here. It's going to separate out and be just beautiful. I'm going to try to make this pretty ambiguous. And I just want people to be able to look at it and think, wow, those are white cherry blossoms, when really they are not white. I'm going to add some more water up here. One thing about this paper is that it doesn't like to stay wet and it doesn't like a lot of layers. So here I'm going to try and I'm going to put like a light little bit of Naples yellow. Just going to scatter it around. A little more Moonglow up here. You can see how it's already separating into its blues and greens and pinks. It's one of my favorite colors. Just a little bit in here, a little bit up here. Now my notebook is obviously pretty full and it's kind of leaning to my right. So I'm just going to take this napkin and prop it up on that, and maybe it will lay a little flatter. Now I'm going to tap in some drops as that Moonglow dries. I'm going to tap in a little bit of, I think I'm going to get some Hansa Yellow Deep. And I'm getting a very light value. And I'm going to do a very light value of Opera. Now, the paper is wet, so this Opera is not going to stay where you see it. except for here it's dry. I'm going to also tap in some more Moonglow. I'm going to tap in some plain water. And I'm going to tap in some Dr. Martin's Bleed Proof White. Dr. P.H. Martin's, sorry. I love to use this stuff wet and wet. Up here in the sky. And then up against that background, it's so pretty. There are just millions of white blossoms. So just tap away. I want this to be wet. I'm going to tap in a little more pink. I'm going to get some quinacridone rose. That's a light, in a light value. It's just a little bit different hue. And while that's working, I'm going to get this number 8 and do the grass. This is a mixture of Naples Yellow and Hansa Yellow Deep. Put it in here too. And there is some real pretty yellowy sky back here. There's a little bit of Moonglow down here. Okay, I'm going to get some green gold. I'm going to put some green gold here. And I'm going to get some sap green. Put back here where it's shady. And in front of this tree, I'm going to get a little more so I have more value back here. So it really does look shady. But look around at your water, because I just noticed, because this is sort of becoming a mound, that the water is being concentrated at the edges. While I'm waiting for all of this to do its magic, I'm going to work on these trees. I have some raw umber. I kind of want this to just disappear up there, and then with my other extended point brush, I'll do the branches in the top. Okay, some more. There's some blue on these, just because of the lighting. So I'm going to go right over this first layer of brown. And on the left of these trees, you see this bluish, sort of a bluish color. Some on this one. It's a nice way to just vary it too. Vary the colors. Mix a little bit of the brown and blue together. And then back here, they're kind of bluey. Leaving a little bit of a space between the trunks to separate them from each other. A little more brown. Now this one back here is pretty dark. We want the most contrast and the most detail right here. And this sort of gets covered by some and comes up here. And this goes over here. I'm going to get out some more white. Sprinkle some in here. And I may as well go everywhere else too. I am now going to use some of my yellow, my mixture of yellow, and kind of fill in some of these spots next to the trees where there's some light coming through. Put some yellow back here. There's some kind of fence or something back here. It doesn't really matter. I just want it to have something besides white paper. And now I'm going to add some more brown to these trees back here. Add a little more blue. And then between their heads, there's a pretty good sized branch. Give that a little more brown. And then his whole head is surrounded by tree. And there's just a lot of stuff back here. Okay. Now these are pretty dark. These are pretty good right here. I do want to add something, not blue. Just something back there that's not just yellow. Okay, that's going to be okay for now. I did get some sepia out. And I want to add a little bit of blue. Just fill in between these little spots. And over here, and I want to add more brown to these ones in the front. And a little more blue. Dab. A little more brown. More blue here. If you're going over your white, that's okay, because we're going to do a final splash of white. Okay, now come up into the blossoms. I'm going to go around that big one and this big one. Oh, I'm using a size 4. And I'm going to get these bigger branches in, and then I'm going to switch over to one of those extended point brushes to get these littler ones. This is a pretty big one right here. Bit more sepia. Add a little blue to that. Gonna leave that one. Okay, there's a big one, a pretty big one up here. This is a pretty big one. There's another one like over here. It goes up into the sky. Don't know what I just did. Don't do that. And this is the thing about this paper, is that it's not very forgiving. I kind of wish Arches would make a cold press paper that's smooth like this. That looks okay. It's off in the distance. It can be whatever we want it to be. That's pretty skinny. I'm going to get this one done. Now let's get these. Get a bit more burnt umber. There isn't that much of a difference in these browns, so if you don't have 2 different browns, that's totally fine. Add some blue to one of them. Okay, let's get the fun one out. I'm going to get out the number 10. I'm going to get a bunch of this brown, because I don't want to dig into a half pan with this brush. I'm going to add a little cobalt to that and kind of thin it out so that it has less value. And I'm going to now use this to add a lot of branches, all those little tiny branches. So you just load it up like a normal brush, and all of that water and pigment is sitting up in here, and it comes off of there. It's just amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna do this one. Isn't that neat? Okay. You can do the teeniest little branches, and they're so light in color that you can do so many and they won't be distracting. You can press a little harder and get a thicker one or barely press at all. Okay, how about over here? Just kind of dance it around. That mistake over here is barely noticeable now. I think I'm just re-dipping so much because that's what I'm used to. There's just a lot on here and I'm not used to that happening. There I went again. Okay, there's some over here. Get it a little lighter. I'm gonna get some of these yellowy ones. I have a little bit of brown in my yellow by mistake. So now I have a very light value of yellowy brown that I can add to this. I'm gonna vary the colors of the branches as well as I'm gonna get a little bit darker on this. So what I was saying is you can get different variations of the colors of the branches as well as variations in colors for the blossoms and the brown and the trunks. And okay, I think that's good. I think that's enough. I don't want to overdo it and lose all of the beauty of the blossoms that we did. I don't love this right here, but what are you going to do? Dab it up. Now I'm going to, while it's only a little bit damp in the spots where we put some branches. So now I'm going to sprinkle on some more lavender. Cover up that light area. Sort of in here. And I'm going to sprinkle on some pink up here. And then some yellow. I'm going to get some more Naples yellow. Sprinkle it on up here. I just love it. So when that dries, I'm going to work. Actually, you know what? I can do it now. We can just work on this right now. I am going to go around their feet. They have light colored shoes on, and I want the light color to contrast with the pavement so that we can tell they have shoes on. Now I'm going to start with a little bit of Naples yellow on here. And then I'm going to go into the Moonglow that I have here. And I'm going to fill in this side. Right on top of that Naples yellow around their feet. And then I'm going to dry it off a little bit. Okay, it's just damp. And I'm going to take the Moonglow and go across the road. And then over here, the road is in shadow, or the curb. And this looks like some kind of drainage. And over here, it's kind of yellow. and it's got a Moonglow top. Don't have to be perfect about it. Get a little green. Okay, added a little sap green to what was here on the brown and blue. And I'm going to add that back in here, leaving some of the yellow showing. Same over here. I want to keep this little light area right here, so I'm going to just go around it. I'm going to get some Naples yellow and put there. Put it back here. It's an opaque watercolor, not opaque like gouache, but it's not as transparent as other colors. And so it's a good one for adding highlights. Okay, and then over here we just have a little bit of shadow, not much. Just add some swoops. And all we have left are the people and maybe some more white splats. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the hair. Grabbing some neutral tint. I'm using a size 4 when I feel like I should use a size 2 because I don't want this to be tight. I'm going to make this be pretty loose. I want to stay with the theme of the whole painting and not do these people super detailed. So she has on kind of a white top, but it's in shadow, so I'm adding some of this lavender. She has a blue t-shirt on underneath this, so I'm going to leave that until it dries. And here he's got on, I'm just going to use cobalt blue again, mix it with this green a little, maybe with this Moonglow. Put that on his front. There's a little light showing between his shirt and where he has his hands in his pockets. And I accidentally made a line right there. His shirt goes down to his hips. Okay, dry those. Add a little more. Okay, I want their clothes to be a little darker. Her top is fine. I'm going to do the little blue V-neck here. Something funny happened with the edges. So I'm going to lift them out and just spread it around. Not super worried about showing wrinkles in the clothing or anything like that. I think she's got on some jeans. And he has on, I think, some brown pants. Get some brown with the blue. And this foot, he's got his weight on this one and his, there we go. Doesn't matter. I'm just going to put a little tip on the toes there. I think she's got on some flats. And for their faces, I'm just going to put some paint. I did some Naples yellow. Okay, these two have a little bit more orange in their complexion than I initially thought. So I grabbed a little bit of cadmium orange, and I'm just going to go right over their faces and their necks. Dry it. And now so that they show up better against the background, I'm going to fix where this tree color comes out around his face and between them. See, I didn't get any right up to her shoulders and her neck. Get a little more here. And then I'm going to blend that out. That looks a little better. I'm going to put a little more Naples yellow here. And I'm going to add a little bit of pink back here. And now to finish up the shadows, the ground is dry, and I just want to put a little shadow coming from her foot and a little shadow coming from his foot. I also want to add a little more stuff to the foreground. Just went right over my light part. There, got it back. Now look at your painting and see if there's anything that you want to add or take away. And I think I want to add some more white. I'm going to add some clear water, and I'm going to get some pink. I'm going to add a little pink up here. I have a little bit of an opaque pink now because I didn't really rinse my brush out very well when I was adding the white. So that looks pretty. Now I'm just putting clear water so that it'll hit some of those hard-edged blobs and smooth them out a little. Okay, now on the people, I'm just going to add just a little hint of just some little outlines to make them stand out a little bit. She's got a seam right here for her jacket, for buttons. His is a little darker right here and like inside his arm. Because the sun seems like it is coming maybe from their side, from their left, so our right side. So his arm here is lighter than this arm. Same with her, she's a little darker over here. A little more blue. I'm getting very fidgety now. A little too much. A little bit more neutral tint. And I think we're done. I really hope that you enjoyed this tutorial as much as I enjoyed it. I thought it was really fun doing thousands and thousands of splats and being very loose with the branches. And even if you don't have one of these, just use your littlest brush and get those branches on there. People did branches before those brushes were invented. So use a rigger, use just a number 2, whatever you have. So what I'm going to do now is take off the tape, and this paper doesn't like to be taped either. It's very finicky. So what I do is I use my dryer, and as I'm drying it, I heat the tape, and it comes off so much easier, and it doesn't rip the paper off with it. This is also a great way to get price tags off of things. So thanks for watching. Have a great day.